Now, in academic writing, you use citations. In journalistic writing, you use attribution. Attribution is basically saying, where did I get the information? And instead of giving footnotes or MLA formatting or anything else, anything you use, you need to say where you got it from in the story. And so what happens is there's a couple of things to keep in mind with this. The first one is anything you write, if you don't say where you got it, the assumption is you knew it for yourself. You observed it. You saw it. You heard it yourself. So I'll give you an example. One time, years ago, this was probably back in like 2004-ish, 2005. There was a soldier or an army person, soldier who had been killed during the battle. I think it was in Afghanistan. Maybe it was Iraq, but I can't remember now. And so I was asked if I could try to get a hold of the family and do a story about what we could find out about what had happened. Like, this is somebody locally who had died during action overseas, and of course we would want to have a story telling about, this person being killed. There's going to be a funeral. People want to know about that, right? And so I was asked to call, so I got a hold of the phone number for the young man's father, and I ended up calling, and I got him on the phone, and he said, he of course, he said, I'd be more than happy to talk to you, but I need to collect my thoughts. Can I call you back in an hour or two? I said, that's fine. So he calls me back, and we talk, and he tells me about, his son, and he tells me about what had happened, what the military had relayed to him, things like that. And so I'm writing the story. I sit down, I write the story, and I'm writing, kind of telling, like they're driving, an RPG, rocket propelled grenade comes out of nowhere, hits the Humvee they were in, knocks it over. There's an attempt to pull him out, things like this, right? Now, what happens is there's several paragraphs, and they're all kind of struck together. And I remember I'm telling the story, and then so it's like very, it's kind of, one of the things about writing is if you want to create some suspense and some feeling that, the story's moving very quickly, you write very short, action-filled sentences. The bomb struck the vehicle flipped. You want to keep your sentences extraordinarily short because people read those quickly. You keep your paragraphs extremely shortly. People pick up the pace. They get a cadence in reading that. Whereas if you write while driving down the road, the vehicle was hit and was knocked over, that takes people a little bit more time to read. There's not a clear action, and so it slows people down. So if you want to slow down the writing, you write longer sentences. That's just a simple way to do it. I don't know. And so what happens is so I'm telling the story, and I'm kind of making it very quick. You're kind of getting this, you're into the story, it's very early in it. You're hearing about how this accident happened, what had happened. The father had told me the story. And so if you put attribution in, you're basically saying the father said at the end of each sentence or the end of each paragraph. And so I thought, well, it's pretty clear who is telling this story, right? The father's telling it. I already started off with the father was, relayed the story that the military had told, and I had already introduced that and made that clear. So I had like 2 or 3 paragraphs where I didn't have any attribution. And my editor goes, well, who said this? And I go, well, the father. And he goes, oh, well, then you need to put attribution. And I said, well, don't you think it makes sense? And he goes, well, if you don't put attribution in, people are going to think you were there. And you weren't there. And I said, yeah, I'm perfectly aware I'm not there. I'm here in Illinois. So what happens, though, is attribution just makes it clear that I'm not the one speaking. I'm not the one putting my name out there. Whenever you put anything in print, if you don't attribute it, then you're taking responsibility for those things. Attribution is there to say who the information came from. And that not only leads to credibility for your writing, but it also leads to... It not only leads to credibility for your writing, it also avoids you getting in trouble. If somebody says something wrong and they're wrong, well, that was them being wrong, not you. And so there's just a lot of benefits. It proves that you've done your research, and it also protects you from being the one saying stuff. And so always have attribution in any writing. Every paragraph, everything should have attribution. The only time you don't have attribution, the only time you don't do it is if you actually observed it. And then you can describe what you saw. Now, with attribution, attribution can be as simple as he said at the end. Usually in written or anytime you write for like an online publication, a newspaper, anything where people are reading it, the attribution always goes at the end. In rare exceptions, does it go at the beginning? It might go at the beginning if you're making a statement of opinion or a statement of, something that's clearly somebody's thoughts on a matter, then you probably want to say it up front. But other than that, like if you're telling events about what happened, or even if you are giving opinions and they're in quotes, you put the attribution in the middle of the paragraph or at the end of the paragraph. Because you don't want to start every paragraph with Smith said, or I heard from Smith. Well, you never say I because you don't want first person. But you don't start off with telling us who told it. You put it towards the middle or end. People realize that, they'll find the attribution in it. The attribution is your citation. You don't have a paragraph. You don't have anything in a paper that doesn't say where you got it. And that is all part of trying to maintain your credibility as a reporter. It's not you who's doing this. It's not you who's saying this. This is where I got my information from. You put it at the middle, at the end. I will stop there. I'll talk a little bit more about attribution in the next video.